What's up, my viewers? Don't forget to leave feedbacks. Enjoy the story. Let's begin.
The world is ruled by the Runcandle clan, specializing in elite sword mastery. The heirs of the clan are granted superhuman abilities and the best swordsmanship to rule the world. The clan embodies virtues of struggling, achieving, and relishing. It is the definition of the last man standing, and that's exactly the clan our protagonist was born into. Jin Runcandle is the youngest son of this clan. By tradition, each infant goes through a rite of choice which dictates their future path. The boy chose the path of the patriarch. He thought he would enjoy a wealthy and rich life, but those dreams were shattered instantly because Jin lacked the basic swordsmanship required to be a Runcandle clan member. His people ridiculed him as the shame of the family and a disgrace to their legacy. Eventually, he was known as the worst swordsman in the history of the whole clan. If you thought your life was shit, just think about his. It's so bad that his fellow clanmates make fun of him for practically picking up a sword because he's so trash. These bug-eyed, bitchless loudmouths ridicule him for not being able to wield his holy sword Balasada. Poor guy has no choice but to ignore them. So his brother whacks him with a powerful kick to remind him of his shitty place. He tries to reach for his sword, only to get his hand stomped on. They don't want him to even try swordsmanship since he's so bad. His second brother makes fun of him for carrying notes to help his pitiful situation. To make the situation even worse, they snap his sword and tear apart his notes. This is done as a reminder to Jin that he will forever be the shittiest swordsman and a disgusting wench to their family. When he raises his voice against this unjust act, he gets bullied by his brothers who think they're doing him a favor. Jin's very own siblings tortured him every day, as if his talentless state wasn't enough. But he didn't care about that. He just wanted to try harder and harder to somehow and someday earn the trust of his family. So with that spirit, he gets back up, to make himself worthy of the clan. But unfortunately, he isn't getting a Zenkai boost in this universe. Bro gets disowned by his clan, but at least they spared him for trying. Jin was reduced to a vagrant, before inevitably crossing paths with his teacher, and realizing that he too boasted talent. He had a kind of power that was forbidden in his clan, the power to wield magic. 3 years have passed since then. Jin is a busy student hard at work when suddenly he gets swallowed by the shadows. He turns to find a giant entity called Soldaret, the master of the shadows. It's a lucky day for our boy as he's been chosen by a literal god to fulfill a contract. By forming this contract, he will be able to wield the power of shadow and become immune to curses. The god of shadows is surprised when he notices that Jin had been cursed from a young age, which is why he couldn't unlock his talent. The curse called Blade's Delusion suppresses the talent of a swordsman, which is basically a death sentence for someone in the Runcandle family. The god of shadows releases him from this curse and declares that he will become a swordsman with unparalleled abilities. Jin returns to his place and instantly grabs his sword to test out the theory. When he launches his sword in a clean swing, he realizes Soldaret wasn't just capping his powers. He's gained tremendous control over his sword. The worst swordsman of the clan doubles down by using magic and further enhancing his abilities. Finally, everything he had worked so hard for was coming to fruition. Or that's what he thought. Fast forward to his gruesome state, Jin was suddenly attacked and defeated. In his final moments, he wasn't able to make use of his powers and slowly fades away into nothingness. As he's crushed underneath the rubble, Jin wonders why he was given a second chance. The world goes blank before he reopens his eyes, shocked to see his clan members again. More so, he's in the same sword sanctuary where the Balasada awaits him. Baby Jin remembers this day and realizes he's returned to his past by more than 20 years. The boy clutches his sword, earning the praise of his family. This time, he grabbed the weapon of his own will. 6 years after he chose the Balsada, the midget couldn't reach the top shelf. He's been in the Storm Castle for a while now and has to endure 3 more years before he's finally free. The boy feels caged when suddenly, one of the maids is horrified to find a dead bird in his room. Jin assesses the situation, realizing only 2 people could do something so audacious and brutal. The 2 people in question are his snickering brothers, the brats who have no regard for the poor animal. Daytona is 9 years of age, while the white hair punk is Haytona, sharing the same age. While they're laughing at the bird, Jin feels sad. These 2 clowns ended up becoming murderers in his original life. Right now they're children. But even then they killed a poor bird to scoff at their own brother. The shitty yin-yang pair has no limits. They're trying to get a reaction out of Jin, ridiculing him for not wielding the Balsada. Jin prepares to speak when Haytona reaches to attack him. When his punch is blocked, even he is stunned. Because Jin isn't playing around as he launches a powerful counter in his face. He gives Haytona a thunderous beating to remember, and even though Jin is barely exerting his powers, he still beats the crap out of his brother. Finally, our boy leaves his bratty brothers with a warning to stay out of his way. Khan arrives, surprised that our boy has defeated both his brothers. Jin simply told him that they got into a fight with each other, resulting in their defeated condition. Of course, this is far from the truth. But still, Khan wants to take them to the doctor. However, Jin refuses against such an act. He takes them someplace else. Jin leaves them vulnerable to a heavy storm. It may be cruel treatment, but he believes it is necessary to teach his brothers the consequences of their actions. Khan is in no authority to question the young master's orders. Strangely, he senses an unusual, sinister aura emanating from the young master. Khan wonders if Jin deployed the use of mana. Realizing that Jin is responsible for putting his brothers out of commission, Khan deems it necessary to report to the patriarch of the clan. Back at the Storm Castle, Jin sees the snitch making his move. He knows that Khan is their guardian and reports everything to the patriarch. Jin concludes that he must have sensed the use of shadow force. In other words, the source of his powers after he made a contract with the god of darkness. It also implies that even in his second life, his latent powers of darkness are active, allowing him immunity against the curse he inherited in his first life. No longer subject to a curse, Jin has changed history as he will no longer be remembered as the worst swordsman. He's happy about that. His next obstacle is a confrontation with his father, the patriarch. After Khan's report, the patriarch tells the guardian knight to assemble the flag bearers. He senses the need to have a meeting with his son. With all 200 knights of the Runcandle family prepared, the legendary patriarch of the Runcandle family marches his return to the Storm Castle. Mary is surprised they were given a sudden order to assemble. Dyphus, her comrade flag-bearer, is also clueless. They were in the middle of an epic battle when it happened. Dyphus wonders if it has something to do with Jin. They can hardly piece together why it's necessary for the patriarch to see his son. Luna interrupts them both, gesturing to stay quiet. But Mary is still curious because she doesn't get all the hype behind Jin's specialty. Back at the Storm Castle, one of the maids informs Jin about the arrival of his father. The pipsqueak wonders what else the guardian knight told his father. He thinks that his father must be curious about the power that he used, since it's different from both mana and aura. The meeting is necessary to determine whether Jin's powers will benefit the clan or not. The patriarch arrives with his many knights, donning his beautiful blade. He demands both Haytona and Daytona to be summoned. After their summoning, he directly asks about their mistakes. The brothers try to act cheeky and answer that they didn't do anything. It was Jin who attacked them with a weird power like magic. But of course, they're only saying these words to trap their brother. But this level of manipulation isn't enough to persuade the patriarch, as he leaves both his sons with cold advice. Their survival in the clan will be short-lived with such a feeble mindset. He basically called them pussies, and then demanded Jin to be summoned. Jin stands before his father, Kiran Runcandle, the head of the family as well as the strongest person. So powerful, in fact, that he is classified as a divine star knight and a demigod. After reaching the heights of such power, Kiran's human emotions have been dulled. The only passion he shares is an obsession for his clan's greatness and prosperity. In his original life, Jin was treated like a nobody. He had nothing to impress his father, but in this life, the boy walks with confidence and stride, knowing that he can no longer be underestimated. He makes his entrance as the flag-bearers glance at the boy, kneeling before his father. Sieran questions why his son addressed him as the patriarch instead of his father. The boy responds that he thought it would be proper to address his father with respect. The Divine Knight proceeds to ask the same question he asked his brothers. Clenching his fist with frustration, Jin responds that their only mistake was revenge. He espouses the principles of the Runcandle clan to always take revenge, no matter the relationship. Hearing such words, Kiran commands the knights as well as the flag-bearers to leave the room. They're all shocked that Jin passed the patriarch's test. Mary is impressed by her little brother for earning a private meeting with their father. The door slams shut, as Kiran finally addresses the issue of magic. He reminds Jin that magic limits their potential for sword mastery. The patriarch directly questions the source of Jin's powers, emphasizing that punishment is due if the answer is mana. Thinking about his options, the boy thinks that he will be in deep trouble if he tells the source of his power is the god of darkness. Jin answers that he doesn't understand his abilities either, and showcases his father a glimpse of his powers. In a twist, it is revealed that Jin's powers were once wielded by the founding patriarch of their clan. Sieran immediately takes note of Shadow Force, shocked that his son could not only wield Balisada, but also the Shadow Force. He wonders if it is Jin's destiny to become the next patriarch. Interestingly, Kiran already knows about the God of Shadows. He explains that Soldaret once made a contract with Tamar, who was the first patriarch of the clan, allowing their growth. But after his death, the God of Shadows never appeared to offer his powers to a Runcandle, not until Jin's birth, who now wields the Shadow Force. Curious, Jin asks his father an important question. He wants to know if the God of Shadows is stronger than even him. Siren thinks about it for a moment and claims that he doesn't know as he has yet to fight a god. But his words are laced with confidence, because only someone who is the most powerful man in the world can say something like that. Sharon likes his question and pats his son. He's proud of the boy and questions how Jin will use his powers. The boy confesses that he will use them for the prosperity of the clan. Kieran laughs as he sees through the boy's deception. He knows that his son is brutal, as he not only beat up his brothers, but let them suffer the wrath of a storm. That kind of answer was a blunder on Jin's part, so this time, he proceeds to give an honest answer, declaring that he will use the Shadow Force for himself. Sieran isn't frustrated with this answer, and even praises the boy for it. He would observe him for the time to come. With that, the meeting between the father and son finally ends. Jin is left exhausted but proud of the outcome. He no longer has to worry about concealing his powers, so it's a good outcome. The same boy remembers just how invisible he felt in his original life. But things were changing for the better in his new life. That night, his elder sister Mary brought him a special gift. She cooked him a nice meal as a parting gift. Jin doesn't remember her being so nice. When he opens the box, what lies inside is a burning heart of a phoenix. It's a crazy present to give to a 7-year-old boy, but Mary is just that kind of crazy. She's a flag bearer and a 6-star knight. She bears many names, but perhaps her most notorious one is the Madwoman of the South. Basically, she's your average Hello Kitty girl but on steroids. This gift is an invitation to her brother to quickly become strong and challenge her someday. Devouring a phoenix's heart is greatly advantageous as it grants total immunity to fire and excels one's growth. Jin wonders if he can become strong enough to summon a phoenix someday on his own. The maid, Jilly, brings him the prepared soup. But before he could dig in, Jin's 2 bratty brothers are drooling over the meal. They want a bite out of it too, but aren't man enough to admit their intentions. Jin offers them a chance to eat the soup in exchange for a favor. The favor turns out to be an annoying job. Both Haytona and Daytona have to dig a hole to search for something. But these clowns are ready to risk it all for some soup. What rests underneath the ground is an incubation chamber that holds a body of a mysterious figure cloaked in darkness. After a fuckton of digging, the boys are finally done. They return in a wretched condition for their well-deserved soup. However, Jin has already finished most of it. He has left just a teaspoon's worth for them to enjoy. This dude is a savage, while his brothers are seething over his shitty tactic. Jin arrives at the site where they dug a hole for him. He's impressed by their work and thinks a simple spell should be able to penetrate what's left. Jin is glad as he can finally use his mana, shattering the hollow wall. Lo and behold, the secret library of the Runkendel clan, a place that was kept hidden from him in his original life. There's a passcode that lets you enter inside. Jin feels confident and utters his request to console Murakhan. The door opens after his chant. After dominating the world, the Runkendel clan preserved the relics of their fallen enemies. Only the flag bearers of the family are allowed to enter this area, and in his original life, he learned the phrase from Dyphus. It helped him unexpectedly in this life. But even Jin is surprised when he sees a murky figure preserved in a capsule. Seeing the man's scaly skin, he wonders if this creature isn't a human. Jin catches a sudden realization that this is the dark dragon Murakhan itself. According to the legends, the dragon was defeated by the first patriarch before falling to a deep sleep. Jin stands before the legend and tries to search for the ancient books. After locating them, he begins his research by learning the secrets of the Kungan clan. However, the words are too difficult for Jin. He wants to take the book with him, but it would risk getting caught. The boy takes out his materials, deciding to copy the content. Every day, he would study at home and copy from the library. One day, things became complicated. Someone else decided to come to the library at an unusual time. But this isn't just anyone. It's the dark dragon Murakhan who has suddenly awoken. Jin tries to remain calm as this monster is an ally of the clan. He tries to act polite with the dragon by calling him a dragon. But it goes to infuriate him as he viciously shouts at the young boy. Murakhan feels angered that he was reduced to a guardian for the Runkendels. He sulks at his current situation. The only reason he awoke from his slumber is because he sensed something from the boy. Murakhan is surprised to find remnants of Shadow Force lurking inside Jin. He claims that such a scent could only be produced by Soldere's contractor, so there's no mistake about it. Jin decides to test his luck and shocks him with a display of his powers. The dragon stutters before collapsing in defeat. He's disappointed to realize that the latest contractor is a pipsqueak. Murakhan is devastated to explain that he made a promise with the god of darkness, and because of that, his partner is apparently Jin. The dragon saves the explanation for another time. He decides to give the boy a proper introduction, as the monster manifests into its true form. Murakhan is an aide of the god of shadows, as well as the last descendant of the shadows. He made an oath a millennia ago. This gigantic beast has vowed to partner with the boy as he is Soldere's contractor. Jin introduces himself as the youngest Runkindel and greets the legendary dragon. The mountain where the storm castle stands was named after the legendary dragon, who reigned over the lands for millennia before losing a battle against the first patriarch of the Runkandel clan. It was clear that they weren't actually enemies. The contractors of gods are always assigned a guardian dragon, which is why people wondered about the disappearance of the dark dragon. They didn't know he was residing in its deep slumber. Jin wonders if he's found himself a guardian dragon upon the dragon's awakening. Thanks to his human form, he's able to chat with him and get some of his questions cleared. Jin frequented the library for months after the dragon's awakening. He wanted to know the reason Tamar and Murakhan fought each other. The silly dragon doesn't recall the real reason as he forgets. More importantly, he's found an obsession with strawberry pies. Jin tells him that he prepares copies of the original books in the library. Unfortunately, he doesn't know about most of the content. Murakhan is still impressed by the boy's perseverance, as any other child would have given up easily. The boy explains that he's just average for a Runkandel. He has a dozen older siblings as well as amazing people like his parents. Jin has great ambition and wants to surpass them. He questions how much Tamar understood at the same age, since this guy is supposed to be the strongest man ever recorded in history. Jin was curious how close he was compared to that guy. The dark dragon told him that even someone like him couldn't have ever understood a single sentence at his tender age. Tamar didn't read books to become strong. Murakhan emphasizes that the boy possesses mad talent just like the first patriarch. Jin wonders if he will compare to the flames of Tamar's powers. Murakhan consoles him to train and become strong with time so that he can compare and even perhaps surpass the strengths of the founding patriarch. To entertain him, Murakhan tells him about Soldaret's second name. The god of shadows is also called Soldaret the Infinite because his powers know no bounds. That also means that the boy's powers hold sky-high potential. To encourage him, Murakhan decides to teach him a new trick, an attack called the Shadow Force Release. This skill is critical for anyone mastering the Shadow Force. It imposes a risk to its wielder, so Murakhan advises the boy to master it well. Murakhan instructs him to release his mana. Jin is confused, so he explains that two skills determine the release of Shadow Force. The first is mana release and the second is mana transfer. The skill requires at least 3 years of mastery, but that's a duration too long for the boy. Murakhan refuses to teach him advanced techniques without the basics. Jin absolutely stumps him with a perfect mana release, which honestly looks like a Rasengan. He's also capable of using mana transfer for some reason. Murakhan is shocked because he's just found himself a genius pipsqueak. With both conditions met, he's ready to show the boy the skill Shadow Force Release. Since all shadows are born out of Soldaret's powers, it implies that he's the master, while Jin is the only contractor. The library is filled with dark shadows, as Murakhan reveals that Jin could also become the master of the shadows. Jin is impressed seeing the might of his magic in full display. The scene cuts to the flag-bearer Luna, who is nearing the completion of her mission. Estimating 4 months to be the completion target, Luna stands amidst the dead monsters while wondering what her younger brother would like as a gift. 6 months after Murakhan awakened, Haytona and Daytona left the castle after turning of age. That leaves the young master, who receives a celebration cake from Jilly on his 9th birthday. The kind young master wants everyone to enjoy the cake. Khan the Snitch makes his sudden appearance, apologizing for his sudden message. Lady Luna, the boy's older sister, has come for a personal visit. Rising as the first flag-bearer of the clan, an excellent knight and the eldest of all the siblings, Luna Runkindel is the strongest among the heirs. She stands different from the rest, uninterested in pursuing the path of the patriarch. Luna doesn't care about her siblings. She treated him like a nameless stranger in his original life. So now, it seems strange that this distant sister of his has come to pay him a visit. Jin wonders if something happened with the clan. He's even afraid that his sister might have discovered his secret visits to the library. Luna pats her little brother and treats him with unusual kindness, even caring for his condition. Jin states that he feels guarded by her sister. Luna thinks that her brother believes they're enemies, and that she sees him as an outsider aiming for the throne. She feels frustrated with the thought and consoles her baby brother. Luna apologizes, kneeling down to pay her little brother proper respect and a request to speak in private. Jin is stumped with such a request and meets her with a smile. When they're both alone, Luna states that she hurried home for an important matter. Since Jin's sudden rising, the rest of their siblings are keeping a strict eye on him. This means that they could act against the boy when he leaves the storm castle. The once cold and distant sister expresses her fear that Jin might lose his happiness amidst their family's trifles. She despises the traditions of the Runkandel clan. Her words make Jin realize why Luna stopped pursuing the path of the patriarch. But she failed to mention such words in his past life. Jin wonders if he wasn't worthy in his original life to hear such consolation. But it's also because his sister is worried that Jin's siblings could threaten him soon. He forms his response, refusing to step away from the fight against his brothers. Luna emphasizes that she's not advising him for her own sake. Her baby brother acknowledges the fact, and even claims that he faced the threat of assassination once. Met with this surprising revelation, Luna taps into her terrifying powers, furious that someone could even attempt to hurt her brother at the Storm Castle. She tries to ask for the assassin's name, but Jin tells her that he doesn't know, and that he's fine for now. The boy is happy to learn that he has earned empathy from one of his siblings. Luna embraces Jin, apologizing for the troubles of their family tradition that come with the Run Candle clan. Embracing her like this, Jin had no idea his sister could be so kind. Luna doesn't want to stomp on his birthday celebrations and offers him an adequate gift. It's a blue pendant. She tells him to turn around. The necklace is capable of summoning Luna once after being shattered. She wants Jin to use it when he's in a sticky situation. Luna is happy for her brother's birthday, and they proceed to have a loving celebration. Unfortunately, she has to head back to her duties. She bids him farewell. Later, Jin shows up to the library with the necklace, surprising Murakami as the necklace is an invaluable treasure. This treasure once belonged to the Demon Beast King, an item that many people risked their lives for. It also grants immunity to the wearer against inferior spells, as well as enhancing one's own. Jin explains that his eldest sister gave him the pendant. What's more is that he's shocked to learn that Luna probably already sensed Murakami's energy. But she won't tell the clan because she cares about her little brother's well-being. Coming back to Luna, she knows something is up between Jin and Murakami, but she chooses to trust in his powers and support her little brother no matter what becomes of him. Jin thought that the first 10 years of his life would be slow and boring at the castle. But in this short time, he learned a lot. He received gifts and benefited from his relationships after meeting amazing people. These were the things his past self dreamt about. The day finally came when the boy turned 10 years of age. He fought against Khan in a sparring session, preparing to leave the castle. The boy's incredible strength at this age impressed the guardian knight, who realized why the patriarch remained interested in the youngest child. Jin boasted the eyes of an instructor who was trying to see if Khan was a fit as his teacher. Concluding their training for the day, Khan pays his respect to the young child. He can only train the boy until he leaves the Storm Castle. Jin is ready to meet his expectations. There came a point where Jin felt immune to flame thanks to the phoenix's heart he received from Mary. He is thrilled to find that some of his powers have started taking into effect. It's only a matter of time until he absorbs the phoenix's powers. Jin is to leave the Storm Castle the upcoming day. Jilly spots his books and is instructed to pack them for his reading session. As usual, the boy requests strawberry pie as his snack. He heads out for a walk at an unusual timing. The boy arrives at the secret library to meet Murakami. The Dark Dragon had anticipated this day to come. Jin wonders how they'll keep in contact. But the dragon isn't worried about such an insignificant problem. Even though he's weaker than his original state, Murakami explains that he can recover his strength when Jin can become stronger, as he's a guardian dragon. Murakami wants the boy to grow up just like Tamar. Jin asks an important question about the clan. Soldaret once told him that the Runkandel clan shared a history of being a spellsword clan, and the first patriarch is noted as the greatest spellsword user in history. However, this history is lost in the myths as the clan only prioritizes swordsmanship in recent times. The reason they object to magic is because of a pact that was made 1,000 years in the past. While they regarded Murakami as their guardian in the past, it's clear they might hate him in recent times. It's a shame because the boy would have drowned in riches for reviving him in the previous era. Then again, it's his shitty clan, so there's a chance that it wouldn't happen. Murakami assures him that he'll track the boy no matter where he goes. As for his capsule, he's planning to keep a hallucination of himself. A hallucination so powerful that they won't be able to see through his deception. The hallucination isn't going to hold for long because of the dragon's waning powers. However, Murakami plans to maintain the hallucination for until the time he becomes an adult. He's brought Murakami a special treat for celebration. The Dark Dragon fawns over the invitation to get drunk and enjoy the party. He's even ready to become acquainted with Jilly if it means more strawberry pies. As Jin is preparing to leave for his clan's family home, he is warned how busy his life is going to get. Jilly can no longer service the boy with her delicious meals, but she's ready to serve him when the time arises. Jin is welcomed by the guardian knights Jerome and Holtz for his escort. They begin their travels. It's the end of the 18th century as Jin finally leaves the Storm Castle to head to his family home, the Garden of Swords. They're met with heavy snowfall along the way. Unfortunately, they won't be able to use a portal under such a condition. Suddenly, the carriage comes to an abrupt stop as Jerome and Holtz warn Jin to stay inside the carriage. The carriage is under attack, but Jilly is confident in the strengths of the 7-star knights who will guard them with their might. However, they are outnumbered, fighting 20 men to 1. Jin realizes something critical and immediately tells her that they must leave as the Guardian Knights have secretly betrayed them. This means they're working with traitors or imposters, which also implies there's something wrong with the carriage. Jilly is frustrated and brings out her full power to protect Jin for the sake of the clan. The carriage explodes as they make their narrow escape. Jilly wants to take responsibility for this incident, but Jin reminds her that more important things are at stake, starting with the fact that the people attacking the knights could actually be their allies instead of enemies. Jin is surprised that they let them escape, which causes much suspicion on their intentions. The Yuta clan, as well as the sorcerers of the Mytel kingdom, and the Black Mercenary group are all here to guarantee the boys' safety. After locating the two of them, Vice Captain Mirka explains his duty to protect Jin. As for Jerome and Holtz, they're struggling to fight such a number. This is because they are imposters who aren't even 7-star knights. As they are surrounded by the group, the devious man states that he isn't going to say a word to a Runkendel servant. Jin, being cold as always, commands one of them to be killed to make the other one talk. Jilly charges with incredible speed, severing one of the men with her sharp attacks. With him defeated, she precisely slashes both arms of the second imposter, inflicting him immeasurable pain. With both his arms severed, Jilly stands the victor of the fight and drags him before Jin. They underestimated Jilly's protective powers. Despite being a maid, she is a loyal 7-star martial artist. Whoever targeted Jin's assassination should have sent higher-level knights for the job. The limbless punk warns them that the age of Runkendels will come to an end. Surprisingly, Jin agrees with him. Because this midget is so full of himself, he cares about making a name for his own good instead of the good of the clan. The imposter blurts out his association with Zyphals, a sorcerer clan that rules a big part of the world. They're the rivals of the Runkendel clan, and they only strive to reach mastery in magic. After Timar's death, the Zyphals clan forced them to sign a pact forbidding the use of magic. That ensured all magical powers of the family were permanently sealed. The Zyphal clan became the direct enemy of the Runkendels for more than 1,000 years. This clown imposter is one of their pawns. Jin doesn't think he's useful, so he lets Jilly handle the rest. The man is begging to be killed, but Jin isn't so kind. He's reflecting on what could cause such an attack. More importantly, the boy believes a Zyphal extremist attacked them instead of the clan itself. What's more is that Jilly was fooled by their disguise. It means someone else is involved in doing such dirty work. The boy offers his gratitude to the vice captain of the knights for saving his life. He's prepared to tell his clan everything so the man could be rewarded properly. Mirka is stunned because the 10-year-old boy does not sound like a normal child. Thinking back on the boy's words, Mirka wonders if Jin really wants to achieve the goal of becoming the best. He tells his men to behave around Jin. It is time to continue their journey. When asked about the imposter, Jin states that he wants his body to be a good reminder to his allies. Unfortunately, they have to travel 2 hours by foot to reach the nearest village. Jin doesn't want Jilly to share the blame of what occurred, as even Khan, who is a 9-star knight, failed to break through their deception. Jilly is still bothered about what happened and apologizes to the young master. For the Runkendels, their nanny is single-handedly responsible for taking care of the child. Jilly was the same in his past life, but unfortunately, they gave her slack for the talentless boy she was assigned to raise. Jilly was so kind that she never blamed Jin. She was expelled from the clan the same day he was, and even on that very day she apologized for failing him. She was the only devoted person he knew in his life. Jin wants to prepare her for the future to come. This woman can't stop blaming herself. So Jin takes a frustrated twist and emphasizes that she's the only trustworthy knight for his protection. Later, Jilly thinks about the boy's scolding. She recognizes that he didn't want her to feel bad. Fortunately, she's ready to perform at her best to impress him. Arriving at the village inn, Jin thinks that it's almost certain the Transfigurator got involved. Bubar Gaston specializes in exercising an ability of dragons called transformation. He performed a greater transformation ability than even monsters, allowing many crimes to occur throughout the world. Jin thinks that with that man's involvement, things could shape up to become problematic. He remembers Bubar's chaos coming to an end when he was arrested in his previous life. The boy wonders if he should try and recruit the man in this life, even though he was nearly assassinated by one of his schemes. Jin is exhausted and ultimately crashes in his bed. Jilly puts him to rest. When Jin wakes up, he realizes that it must be his harsh training taking a toll on his body. There is an annoying cat hanging around his window. My boy suddenly realizes that this dumbass is actually Murakhan. This dude turned himself into a damn cat to follow him around the world. Murakhan gets angry and hisses at him. Jin allows him to come inside, but he's still frustrated. He turns to his human form to scold the boy, but he's so clumsy the fool crashes into his desk. Jilly instantly barges in to check on Jin, and then she discovers the intruder. She's ready to kill this guy before our boy even has a chance to speak. Murakan suddenly remembers it was Jilly who baked him strawberry pies. Basically, he's just found his lottery ticket. Jin is out here dreading his life. He decides to take the honest approach with her, introducing Murakan as the guardian dragon of the clan. Jilly is utterly stumped and apologizes for attacking him. More importantly, she's curious why her nickname is Strawberry Pie all of a sudden. Jilly learns that throughout this time, Jin secretly had her bake pies for Murakan. After a long explanation of what happened, Jilly is shocked to learn that the boy has the ability to wield magic and shares a contract with the god of darkness. She's actually supportive of his talents, which is why Jin decided to tell her everything. He emphasizes that his relationship with Murakan as well as the source of his powers must remain a secret. At first, she trusts the guardian dragon, but after learning that he is clumsy enough to trip and fall, Jilly wonders if it's really a good idea to rely on him. They arrive at the portal, where Murka's duty has come to completion. He is eager to explore the kind of person Jin will grow into. Murka is curious why an excellent martial artist like Jilly left her clan to join the Run Candles. She refuses to elaborate and leaves with the boy. The staff at Mytel Portal learns that they're dealing with the high nobility of the Run Candle family. They allow them entry to first-class seats for a quick teleportation. Jilly shares her concerns for Jin's magic, as there isn't an excuse plausible to convince the Run Candle clan. The boy intends to keep the source of his powers hidden. Suddenly, he spots a noble mage of the Zyphel clan who is granted first-class seats as well. The noble shares his disgust openly, but finds himself fascinated by the cat. Murakan is a gigachad as he slashes the pathetic noble, giving him what he deserves. The Zyphel noble is surprised that Jin is composed and quiet despite his provocative remarks. Veridine introduces himself and offers a hand to the boy. Jin remembers him. This man had gone on to become a gifted sorcerer and an incredible candidate for the next patriarch of their clan. Even though Jin also shares a talent in sorcery, his talent is next to nothing compared to Veridine. The boy is cautious of him and reminds Veridine that his men nearly pulled out their blades, and they would have been killed for that. He dishes out equal provocation as a joke, but Jin emphasizes that he wasn't just joking around. Veridine gets actual chills from the boy, but he imparts him with advice not to stir up trouble between the two major clans. Jin claims that both their fathers are people of great stature, and that they would never go into war over a children's fight. Veridine is impressed, but Jin is verbally abusing this man. He tells him to shut up for the rest of the portal ride. Veridine is almost enchanted and wants to befriend Jin, but it would complicate their clan's relationships. So instead he vows to make him his rival for the ages to come. As for Jin, he's surprised Veridine is maintaining his school even after his joke. It's almost as if the Zyphels are chaotic and messed up in their heads. Teleportation is underway. Before being teleported, Veridine expresses his excitement to meet Jin in the future. But the boy doesn't share his enthusiasm and doesn't want chances of that happening. Finally, Jin has arrived. Petrov, a second-class butler of the family, meets his grace, welcoming him to the Garden of the Swords and the home of the Run Candle family. The Garden of Swords is a sanctuary of blades for the most reputable members of the Run Candle family. To have one's weapon be marked in this garden is the height of honor for a Run Candle family member. The boy once shared the same goal, but with the weaknesses of his past life, he became naive and foolish. Now that he's equipped with a cunning nature, Jin believes he will have an easier time in the house. The boy meets his mother, Rosa Runcandel. Ciaron is alarmed by the cat he picked up on the way. The fact that he claims ownership over the animal is considered a proud quality. Jin has decided to name him Kitty Runcandel, but this kind of name is seen as offensive by his brothers, as it is an animal undeserving of their name. Ciaron asks why he did that. The boy counters that he wants to take responsibility for the cat, a creature that he claimed as his own. He wants to ensure he takes care of it, even though the Run Candle name is a heavy burden, as Jin will have to seek revenge should anyone bother his pet. The patriarch is impressed with the boy's ability to make quick enemies. His siblings aren't an exception. Jin emphasizes that he doesn't shy away from taking his enemies down. His father appreciates this kind of attitude and hopes his older siblings stay sharp and don't underestimate him. 4 years have passed since then. Jin is a 14-year-old classified as a 2-star knight. His training session is concluded with Garen, and his next training is scheduled with Luna. Jin doesn't want to share lunch with his family and prefers eating with the cats. Velop has brought him lunch. He's a commoner who is going to be expelled from the clan soon. Interestingly, he's so calm and always praises Jin's mightiness. Our boy tells him to stray away from the path of humility, as he often gets looked down upon. Jin encourages him to take some pride in his abilities, since he's also a Run Candle cadet. Velop sulks as he's got the lowest grades and his swordsmanship is trash. On the other hand, becoming a cadet of the Run Candle clan is a feat in and of itself. He might have the worst grades, but he's better than average. Jin really wonders how a meek and introverted boy like him could become a dangerous enemy in the future. What's more is that he ended up taking his own life. Velop's life might face a similar end, so Jin wants to prevent that future from occurring. This time he's hell-bent on making sure he stays in the clan. Later, the young master is assessing his current abilities. It's destined for him to reach 3-star swordsmanship in the upcoming years. But for now, he has to train with Luna, who wants him to execute the training differently than from yesterday. Luna suggests that he use his mind's eye to visualize his training. Acquiring the mind's eye is the greatest weapon for a swordsman. It's a form of high-level meditation, a skill that is only achieved by 7-star knights. Jin doesn't understand why he's being taught such a skill so early. Luna restricts the use of aura in their training, so Jin doesn't understand the purpose. He places good faith in his older sister's advice and increases his level of focus to learn the technique. The training session comes to an end. Luna thinks that Jin's focus is impossible for a knight at his level. It's only a matter of time until he unlocks even greater power. The scene cuts to a sparring session. It's an important day for Jin. If he beats all 10 cadets, then he will be able to join the intermediate class. While the young master is confident, his friend Velop is a nervous wreck. The coach instructs the cadets to spare 3 times going against different partners. Only the top 10 best fighters will face Jin. The competition begins with each cadet displaying a good level of swordsmanship. With the 10 cadets decided, the remaining fighters are left to be seated. Jin prepares to face them, and his most impressive record to date was defeating 8 fighters in a row. Jin is most worried for Mesa Milcano, the top brass of the cadets. This match will determine everything. She dashes to attack him, and Jin barely blocks, sensing that she's gotten even stronger since their previous battle. The real problem is that he has 8 more opponents to beat after defeating Mesa. She's overwhelmed by his choice of using simple moves instead of adopting complex variations. Mesa suddenly realizes that Jin is looking down on her. Offended by this treatment, she lunges to unleash more of her power. Mesa is determined to beat the young master. She lunges for a decisive strike, but Jin shatters her blade and remains the victor of the fight. Mesa is stunned that Jin was able to strike the same spot, making her sword chip and shatter. They have comparable strength and stamina, but it was his precision that crowned Jin the victor of the fight. Mesa declares that she will continue her training to impress him in their next fight. Though he's faced with 10 cadets, Jin is glad to have defeated Mesa and instills a sense of hopelessness among them. He quickly defeats the 10th cadet, fulfilling the challenge. As his reward, he will join the intermediate class next year, receiving actual training from a true run candle. Though the training session has concluded, Jin states that he wants to fight against a final cadet. He shouts Velop's name and calls him out to fight. The introverted nervous wreck refuses at first, but Jin reminds him that his time in the clan will be short-lived if he keeps up the act. Jin states his intentions to crush Velop in the fight. Fidgeting his way to the battlefield, Velop barely has the confidence to wield his weapon. He wonders if this is punishment from Jin, who claims that this should be an easy fight for Velop since he's tired after facing 10 cadets. But even then, Jin is confident that he can overpower the weakling. Without wasting another word, Jin dashes to beat the shit out of him. He's barely able to block the heavy attack. Jin is impressed by his parrying. Velop tries to hold on, but Jin isn't being kind with his attacks. He's giving him hell with his strength, stating that he could have even killed Velop with his last attack. He's given a second chance to redeem himself. Velop gets back on his feet, but something is different about him. A golden aura envelops his body as he's about to launch a deadly attack. Mesa alerts Garen that Jin's life is in danger. The young master commands everyone to keep this fight a secret. He wants Velop to use aura to heighten his abilities. Velop charges with his full strength, believing that he will defeat Jin in his weakened state. Even though Jin blocks his attack, his blade is shattered from the impact. He always knew about Velop's hidden potential, but Jin was completely unaware about his talent for casting aura. Even with his blade shattered, Jin counters with a heavy slam and catches Velop in a headlock. Finally, he lets go, surprising him with an act of mercy. Jin chooses to be honest, telling his friend that he didn't want to fight him like this. Even though he knows nothing about Velop, he wants him to become strong on top of his kind heart. Because in their clan, kindness isn't enough to survive. The young master shows a gentle side to himself, asking Velop to get along with everyone by becoming strong and protecting his beliefs. It's lunchtime. Jin decides to fetch them both a meal since it's usually Velop who brings them food. Sieran is shocked to receive a report from Khan about Jin's recent act of consideration for Velop. His father is proud of the boy's ability to care for people weaker than him. He's pumped for his son's growth and is ready to assign the boy his first mission. The first month of the year 1795 is when the boy finally turned 15. He was promoted to a 3-star knight and gained a vacation from training. The intermediate class used real swords instead of wooden blades. Each blade was handcrafted for every cadet, so some had to get their weapons made. Jin was also looking for a weapon, and more than him, Luna had been eager for this day to come. She was the one who would pick his weapon of choice, as she begged him to do so. Her baby brother trusts her choices and thinks she'll find the perfect weapon. Well, that's until she brings out what seems to be a giant sword. Even Jin is shocked. Luna states that she once used the same weapon at his age. She even came up with the design, and it's her prototype for her main weapon. Jin, however, has a difficult time accepting her choice. He declines the weapon, hurting Luna's feelings. Seeing his reaction, Luna decides to opt for a different weapon, a weapon that would suit his fighting style. Luna spent much time on his weapon of choice. Since he chose the balisada when he was an infant, she figured the bradamante would be the perfect replacement. It's the weapon of the first patriarch, a blade that comes to his liking, as it is one of the most valuable treasures of the clan. Jin wanted to obtain this weapon in the future, but he's glad Luna offered it to him for free. Both swords are excellent for the users of Shadow Force. Jin couldn't have obtained the weapon himself because of sibling rivalry. It's a heavenly gift from Luna that he obtained so easily. Luna states that he doesn't have a need to repay her in any shape or form, since she's also aware he's keeping his defenses up around her. Since she's upset, Luna instructs her brother to close his eyes for another training session. She tells him that the Runkandel siblings are always fighting against each other, but even so, she wants to remind him of her undivided love, as Luna is ready to support him no matter what. She says these things as Luna has felt immense loneliness and feelings of isolation before Jin's time. She hopes that her little brother never has to go through such feelings in his life. With that, they return to their training session. After the training, Jin excitedly shows off his new weapon to Murakhan, who doesn't think it's a great weapon for his current skill level. It's necessary for the boy to acquire some level of mastery with his Shadow Force to activate Bradamante's potential. Jin is way too weak at his current level, but he hopes to reach 3 stars in Shadow Force soon. Murakhan is offended by the boy's arrogance and emphasizes the caution one has to take just to use holy weapons of the Patriarch. Instead of 3 stars, he advises the boy to reach 5 stars instead. Jin is a defiant child who doesn't want to wait too long. He hopes to accomplish the target by next year, a claim that upsets Murakhan. To further annoy him, Jin takes his book, threatening to rip it apart. Fortunately, Jilly comes to inform the boy about Garen, who wants to meet him for a briefing of his latest mission. Jin is surprised. He learns that his first mission will begin after the end of the break. Although he is glad, he doesn't understand why it has to begin right after the break. Jilly knows that missions are tough even for the intermediate cadets. Jin is intrigued and wants to explore the matter with Garen. He enters the room to meet Garen, realizing that he is to execute a mission with 10 novice-class cadets. They will be split into groups of 2. The objective is to scout the border area of the Jian Kingdom. This kind of area is normally too dangerous for cadets of the beginner level. Jin thinks it will be tough, especially when you consider the fact that his teammates are weak as hell. The boy thinks his father has something to do with the mission conditions to be so strict. He wonders if Velop is related to the matter. Nevertheless, the boy is prepared to prove his skills to the Divine Star Knight, proving that his resolve is harder than steel. 4 days passed. They were on their mission to rescue Sember Bill of the Bill family. They took the initiative to set up camp near the border immediately, then they will commence operations. Each day, a group will be used to exchange information with their base camp. Jin is the leader and wants his allies to address him as such. Anyone injured will rest and take breaks plentifully to ensure the success of the mission. Jin learns that there aren't any werewolves in the area. He's impressed by Velop's insight, who is acting as the mediator for information. The group leader furthers the search on Area 13. Something about the mission bothers him. While it's true his father played a part in assigning the mission, everything is going comfortably smoothly. The boy wonders if his intuition had been incorrect about the mission. The land beyond Area 13 is called the Land of Halfman. It's a dangerous area well beyond the skill level of the novice cadets. Jin wants a smooth victory instead of exhausting his resources. Suddenly, Velop comes with a striking development on the situation. Jin receives the alarming news of Group 2 succumbing to an enemy attack. He immediately prepares to move, and learns from Velop that they were attacked by 3 human assailants. It's possible there are more than 3 enemies. Jin tells his subordinates to return to the base camp. He leads the charge against the enemies while reducing their intentions. There are many questions troubling Jin, but he's prepared to exact his revenge against the enemy. Traces of blood terrify Velop. He fears Mesa's group got annihilated. However, Jin thinks there is hope as there aren't any pieces of flesh around. It's possible only one assailant is attacking them. Jin comes to discover a bloodied bandage. With this discovery, he deduces that Group 2 switched tracks after sensing another threat near the vicinity. He wants Sierra to go with Eddington and David, while Jin is to pursue Group 2 with Velop. They both manage to find Group 2 fighting against their enemies, but Mesa is nowhere to be found. He commands Velop to attack the one on the left. Jin coats his weapon with shadow force, increasing its attack potency. He launches the blade, instantly killing one of the assailants. As for the second, Velop launches his attack, but Jin is quick on the draw and slashes him from behind. With that, both assailants have been defeated. Jin learns about Mesa's capture. He gives the assailant two choices, both spelling his doom. This terrifying 15-year-old is ruthless and promises to kill every person the assailant has ever known. The man doesn't want his family to face doom, so he spills information about his connection to the Kinzalo faction. They're a terrorist group who became responsible for killing the king of the Jian Kingdom in the original timeline. Under the guise of revolution, they wear a secret intention to conquer the world. Jin inquires about their intention. Unfortunately, the assailant is one of their underlings, so he doesn't have much information about their main base. He tells him about a different base that houses 20 martial artists and sorcerers. As for his final question, Jin wants to know why they kidnapped Mesa. He learns that it was their order to capture the female cadets for a political goal. After receiving this information, Jin lands the killing blow, refusing to be merciful to his enemies. 1 hour has passed since Mesa's capture. He wants his subordinates to request support after healing. Jin is prepared to tackle all 20 assailants himself. His comrades are against such a rash decision, wanting to provide them with their assistance in a dangerous mission. Jin emphasizes that it is his duty to protect the people of his clan. He believes in his strength to complete the mission, and doesn't prefer entertaining objections to his orders. Jin instructs Velop to be in charge in his absence. With that, the group leader dashes to save Mesa, hoping to reach her before it is too late. Jin has to defeat competent enemies stacked against his skill level. It's true that he's strong, but he's not strong enough to defeat all of them alone. So his plan is focused on rescuing Mesa instead of defeating his opponents in a head-on fight. Jin activates detection magic and pairs it with wind detection for even greater effect. This lets him uncover the enemy's tracks. Jin continues his rush when he is suddenly attacked by a bunch of assailants. The Runkandel young master shocks them with his ability to cast magic spells. He defeats one before getting his hand trapped by a mage. Jin slashes the assailant from behind and remains unaffected by the flames thanks to his immunity. The mage deploys the use of ice magic to beat him, but even that is rendered ineffective against this monster. Defeat is certain as the sorcerer meets his end. Jin wonders if the assailants are underestimating his faction because of their beginner-level experience. He understands the Kinzalo hierarchy and knows that Mesa won't be harmed until she reaches the officer. It's the only glimmer of hope he has to save Mesa. Jin intends to distract his enemies and casts flame magic to do the job. This will make them focused on the fire while Jin executes his next move. He comes to their base, slowly waiting for his enemies to make a mistake. Jin spots their leader who knows there is a culprit responsible for the fire. Unfortunately for him, Jin strikes him down when his men are far away. He obtains the keys and busts open the captivity room. There, he discovers a trapdoor and sees Mesa at last. She's shocked to see him in such a dangerous location. Jin frees her, but suddenly the entire structure begins shaking. Mesa begs to be left behind in case the situation gets difficult for them to escape. Jin cares less about that and focuses on saving Mesa. After coming outside, he comes to terms with a horrifying revelation. A half-man has just killed a bunch of enemies unexpectedly. This terrifying monster is none other than the white werewolf. Jin knocks Mesa unconscious so she doesn't do anything rash. The werewolf questions if Jin is responsible for the flames. Jin introduces himself as the son of the patriarch and stands to face the werewolf, who is impressed to find an underling of the Runkandel clan. Many days before the mission, Jin was trying to master his weapon, but Murakhan always jumped him for being absurd. He warned him against preemptively activating the sword and overloading his body. Much to his annoyance, Jin stopped his pursuit. In the present, he is faced with his most difficult threat. Quazoidotruca is a warrior-class creature of the white werewolves race. These monsters are born with the desire to slaughter their enemies. They're formidable creatures capable of defeating 6-star knights, and they bear a special hatred for the Runkandels ever since Tamar killed their god. Jin is in a real pinch. He has no way of safely delivering Mesa with this guy on his tail. The only way out of this situation is through. The monster questions if the Runkandel will fight him head-on or choose to cower and run. Jin answers that he will fight with honor. This response triggers Quasito to burst forth for an attack. He uses his giant sledgehammer to crush Jin. Fortunately, he evades the strike, but only momentarily. Jin is overpowered by the monster's immense speed and strength. He's barely able to stand his ground, but thinks there's a chance as long as he can activate his secret weapons. Jin doesn't want to risk the use of Luna's pendant. He desires to reach the top by overcoming this difficult challenge. Lower-level magic against such an opponent is useless against the defenses of werewolves. There's also the risk that his secret powers will be discovered by other people. His only weapon in this case is the Shadow Force. Jin desires to awaken the sword or else he will lose this fight. The monster is impressed by Jin's weapon for being durable in a fight. However, Jin is still on the back foot. Clutching the sword in his hands, he tries to activate its power. Then suddenly, in a beam of light, comes the ascension of the blade that blinds the werewolf's sight. A decisive slash cuts through the air. The monster falls to his knees, having suffered a major wound to its belly. Jin declares the end of the fight, standing atop as the victor of this battle. However, the drawbacks of his sword start to overwhelm his being. Murakami warned him against this. The horrors of his past, the haunted voices inside his head begin to devour him. Murakami comes before the boy, reminding him of the price of activating the sword too early. With the shadows overwhelming his body, he encourages the boy to take his stand, or else he will lose his consciousness forever. Jin remembers to release the shadow force, but it's an impossible task as he is swarmed by the dark energy engulfing his body. Jin aims to achieve a level of calmness, and finally removes the pain from his body. Luckily, he didn't incur any wounds, but his body is still overflowing with the shadow force. With what little strength he has, he tries to get up to save Mesa. Suddenly, he senses the presence of a random man. The man tells him that he isn't associated with Kinzalo. In fact, he's Sember Bill, the man they were looking for. Jin tells him that he's supposed to rescue him on behalf of the Run Candle family. Hearing this, Sember celebrates in joy. Jin rescues Mesa and asks how Sember was captured by the Kinzalo. He explains how he found a lover. Unfortunately, she died 2 years in the past. But he was shocked when he found the same woman who deceived him, leading to his capture. Hearing this, Jin immediately realizes it's the work of the Transfigurator. Sember's capture is linked to a combined attack from Bubar and Kinzalo. Jin hopes to meet him soon to uncover his intentions. As for Sember, he's greatly indebted to Jin's contributions in this mission. He wants to help him in the future. The mission is finally complete, as Jilly congratulates Jin upon his return. But more than that, the devious little cat bites his hand. In response, Jin tosses this dude in the window. Murakami is frustrated that Jin got ahead of himself and activated the sword when he wasn't even ready. He ragdolls Solderet's last contractor for being stupid enough to risk his life. Jilly tries to intervene, but he shuts her down too. Jin counters that he didn't want to waste his pendant, especially when there are more powerful enemies waiting for them. More than that, he's curious how Murakami was able to tell about the sword's awakening. It's because Jin's growth in Shadow Force shot up by activating the sword. Shadow Force overload is no easy task. 9 out of the 11 users succumbed and crumbled. The only ones that didn't are both Murakami and Jin. Still, he fears having to go through such a terrifying level of pain. The Dark Dragon makes a request for strawberry pie while he's at it, but feels devastated when declined. Talks of Jin's victory over the White Werewolf have raised suspicion. It's clear that Jin's ability is only ranked around 3 stars, so it would be impossible to beat the werewolf. Anna theorizes that the monster he faced must have been weaker than him. However, Miu doesn't buy that explanation. The both of them turn to the Tona twins for an explanation. They wonder if Jin truly defeated the monster out of his league. There's also the part where he's now in the intermediate class, which means both Haytona and Daytona are going to eat shit. Miu and Anne find their situation hilarious. Anne glares at them, giving them a sharp warning if they were to lie. The brothers confess that they're deathly afraid of Jin. Anne is prepared to help these clowns through their slaves. The intermediate class thrives on the survival of the fittest. Only the best of the best remain from cadets of 3 stars to 5-star levels. As for both Anne and Miu, they've made a bunch of these cadets as their very own slaves. They're ready to deploy them to Haytona and Daytona to beat Jin. The perspective shifts to our boy, who has reached 4 stars in Shadow Force as a result of completing the mission. There's an imminent risk of using his full powers, so Jin wants to reach 6 stars swordsmanship within the next few years of his life. He hopes to become an exceptional swordsman before climbing to rank 7 as a master. However, the strongest swordsmen are all 8-star knights or above. In fact, there are only 100 brilliant knights of such level on a continent with a population of 2 billion. But there's even more. One class that exists beyond even 10 stars. The divine star level of the Patriarch Tieron, who has achieved the strength of a demigod. That's his goal. Jin aspires to climb the heights of a divine star knight to surpass his father. But for now, his current objective is to deal with the intermediate class. The Tona twins are going to pose him much trouble aside from the rest of his siblings. The novice class was easy and supportive because they were newbies. But when it comes to the intermediate class, things are different. The only measure of strength is power and skill. Jin's objective is simple. He will dominate the intermediate class and make his mark. He is summoned to a meeting with his mother, who congratulates him with the completion of his first mission. At the same time, she learned from her butler that Jin refused to stay in the new room. The special room is designed for the people who will become the Patriarch. The room has been empty, so she wants Jin to use it. However, her son declines the offer, stating that it's just a room and that he doesn't fancy spacious rooms. He's satisfied with what he has. Hearing this answer, she tells him to take his leave. Rosa is confused about the ambitions of the boy, not understanding if he is full of ambition or devoid of it. It was clear that he would have been treated with brilliant support after acquiring the room, but at the same time, Jin would become the target of his siblings. The offer was a test, and our boy aced it to his mother's expectations. Jin returns to inform the novice cadets about factions that are linked in an intermediate class. Since these fresh cadets will be considered a part of Jin's faction, they're going to face scrutiny and harassment. But their leader isn't going to sit around and watch. He hopes to conquer the intermediate class immediately. As caution, Jin advises them to stay on their guard and be always accompanied by an ally. The following day, Jed Runcandle, an experienced 8-star knight as well as the younger brother of the patriarch, offers his speech to the cadets who are promoted to the intermediate class. Jed will not be involved in any serious events and exists only to evaluate their swordsmanship. He roars his message to remind the newbies of their cold motto. Strength is the only thing that matters, so anyone weak will be discarded from the clan. Jin senses that this is an attempt to intimidate the freshmen. He spots the Tona twins, and also spots an unusual-looking warrior next to them. For some reason, he guesses that Anne and Miu are operating from behind the scenes to intimidate the newbies. Mesa observes Jin, who is walking straight towards the Tona twins. He takes out his blade and slashes the man right next to them. To everyone's utter shock, the man loses his arm as Jin hopes to emphasize to his enemies that he's the one in control, instead of the other way around. When asked for his name, the cadet introduces himself as Kazin Romero. The Tona twins try to interfere in the matter, but Jin shoots them a warning to remember. One of the brothers gives into anger and accidentally blurts out the cadet's allegiance to his faction. This is exactly what Jin was looking for. He further provokes them by stating he had a petty reason for slashing the man's arm. War between the Runcandle siblings has already started. Jed realizes that the twins' trap worked against them. With Kazin's allegiance to their faction, Jin's act is no longer seen as a selfish mistake. Instead, it is considered the War of Ranks, a tradition of the Runcandle clan. Right this moment, Jin shouts his name loud and clear, reminding the intermediate class that he will not hesitate to cut anyone down if they prove to be hostile. But this level of defiance has pinned him against the 8-star knight. His uncle Jed is infuriated by his words. Jin states that he's contesting the decisions of Jed. Offended, the 8-star knight materializes his weapon, vowing to kill the boy if his reason lacks conviction. Jin responds that Jed is responsible for leading the immediate class. He could realize from that moment that he is perpetrating the attack. Hearing this, the powerful knight thrusts his blade against Jin's face, grazing him as a warning. The young master emphasizes that he didn't feel offended. As for why he didn't contest Jed in a head-on match, it was clear that he would lose, else he could have attacked him from the beginning. Jed reminds the boy that he's unafraid of cutting him down even if he is the son of the patriarch. Jin responds, prefacing his bravery, as though his opponent is far stronger than him. A Runcandle never backs down for his honor. Jed laughs at his words but in a way finds them pleasing enough. He acknowledges Jin's place in the Runcandle clan and reminds the young cadets of the best example of what a Runcandle is actually like. The session is at last dismissed. Jin walks away, but departs with a piece of advice for the Tona twins. He reminds them that there will come a time where they will fear him more than their older siblings. Back in his room with Murakhan, Jin tells Jilly about the War of Ranks. He's certain that Miu and Anne are secretly manipulating the strings of their conflict from behind. Jin slashed Tae Cadet, who stepped out of line. He was a man who was once part of Anne's faction, but somehow joined the twins' faction. It's impossible for them to have 5-star knights in their group, since the leaders aren't supposed to be weaker. Jilly fails to understand Anne and Miu's intentions, but the boy is glad that he's being seen as an enemy and a rival. They can abuse their power to manipulate the difficulty of his missions to ensure Jin fails. But apart from that, there's not much they can do, since Jin is capable of fending off their threats in individual operations. That's exactly what Jin is intending to do. Since he knows he will be forced to handle difficult missions, it will allow him to stack a number of wins and become stronger. He can also take Murakhan along for safety measures. Jin has a different role for Murakhan. The following day, the Tona twins and Jin share a meeting with their uncle. They are informed about the special training privileges they will receive as Runcandle pureblood heirs. The training will be difficult, but it will embody the character and motto of the Runcandle clan. The Runcandle's fighting style is deprived of standard swordsmanship. They have special moves reserved for flag bearers to learn. Since their fighting style is mostly unorthodox, it sets them apart from other clans. Jin predicts that it's because the physical abilities of the Runcandles are unique. The bloodline of these swordmasters allow them God-given talent for sword mastery. It's in their blood to be born with such special ability. Compared to that, their training will be focused on simple movements. The task is to hold a steel ball. Jin senses that there's something inside. The steel balls are called singing stones. They generate specific sounds upon each strike. Jed demonstrates by striking the steel ball, which produces a sharp clang, deafening their ears. Then, the Commander Knight strikes a second time, but there's a twist. A beautiful melodic sound is created. Each sound depends on how hard the ball is struck. The objective is to strike perfectly to release a beautiful sound with each strike. Jin realizes that this is the most effective form of training for the run candles. But even so, it's still too easy and simple to be called a secret training method. Jed attempts to produce the third and final sound. Jin is curious. The blade hits the stone when he suddenly realizes the effects. Jin pushes his brothers away as the steel ball explodes to oblivion. The Tona twins are shocked while Jed is impressed by the boys' sharp senses. The stones will always explode when struck with too much power. This basically means their lives are at risk in the name of training. Jed explains that all of their previous siblings experienced the same effects of the explosion. Jin wants to know how Luna was able to dodge. Jed explains that she didn't even try to dodge, and succumbed to the destruction of the blast. But she was so powerful in her defenses that it didn't even hurt her. This response leaves not just Jin but also his brothers completely speechless. The power of